Thanks for coming with us today. We are on Thursday, April 11th. It's hard to believe we're already halfway through the month and we're in spring. It is Teal Talk. My name is Jenny Guy, and I am here to talk to you about some of the most exciting things we've got going on at Mediavine with our Publisher Engineering Manager, Jordan Cauley. Jordan, can you say hi?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. My air conditioning works now.
Was this a problem earlier?
It was a problem earlier.
I'm glad we're not going to have a sweaty live. It's good to know that we're going to have a temperate live. That's exciting. Okay, so tell me, you're the Publisher Engineering Manager. What does that mean, and what does the Publisher Engineering Department do?
So I'm the publisher. What it means to be the Publisher Engineering Manager is that I work for Tim, and I work for Eric, and I work for Amber, and I work for Jenny, and I work for Nicole, and I work for Heather. And so what it means on a day-to-day basis, it means that I run our projects related to WordPress particularly, and now as we're expanding some of our offerings inside of WordPress, also some other API services that work. Like with you're using Create, we also run the nutrition API and some of those APIs. If you're using MCP and you like to insert videos, we run the API that lets you fetch those videos and insert them in your plugin. So plugins and associated products and Trellis coming up. Those are all products in the Publisher Engineering department. What I do on a day-to-day basis is that I work with stakeholders. Like stakeholders is a fancy word for people whose opinions actually matter, and I have to do what they say. And so typically that's Nicole and Amber and Eric a lot, and many times also our publishers via some of Facebook. I read Facebook daily. I check on Intercom. We have a channel with support, and I'm in that channel constantly. And so I'm always trying to grab information from all these places to make these products better. And that means I work with my team and our designer to create interfaces, to design and sort of plan out the interfaces and the software that's going to help publishers be more successful. I hope that was as concise as it could be, but it's a weird job.
It's a very interesting job. So basically what you're doing, what you and your team are doing, is creating all the stuff that's not necessarily on our ad tech side that is going to make our publishers all the dollars and make their jobs easier.
Yes, that is my job, is to make their jobs easier more than anything else. And also, as often as possible, we are trying to also integrate with our ad tech as much as possible to, again, make things seamless, make the reader experiences and the publisher experiences exceptional, and make sure that they can capitalize on those exceptional experiences.
Phenomenal. Okay, so just to recap where we are right now, I am Jenny Guy. This is Teal Talk. Hello, everybody. And we are with Jordan Cauley. He is the Publisher Engineering Manager, and he and his team are tasked with building out all the incredible ideas that we have for WordPress plugins to help integrate with our ad tech and make everybody's lives easier and better and more money. If you have any questions about our WordPress plugins or upcoming projects for us, please go ahead and post them in the comments. We'll ask them, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about starting with our first WordPress plugin that we've ever released, which is Create. Talk to me about Create. It is your first baby in the Mediavine world, but you do actually, why don't you tell me who you are and about your actual babies that are born in the world?
Oh, okay. So a little bit about me is I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. I have a beautiful wife. I have 3 children, including I have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a less than 1-year-old. We like Greensboro. It's very nice. Lots of green parks, believe it or not. And we like North Carolina because it's relatively inexpensive to live here. But that's a little about me. Things I like to do: occasional video games, a little bit of guitar. Mostly, I work for publishers, though. That's what I do most of the time.
So we run a tight ship here at Mediavine, and you're working for the man, Eric Hochberger, who I'm sure is watching. We'll get an emoji soon. We always do. He's lurking. He keeps you guys busy. All right.
He keeps everyone busy, but Eric and I had a meeting today, and we went over the number of the projects that we're doing and realized it's quite a bit.
It's staggering, all the things you guys are working on, but it's also pretty awe-inspiring and exciting to hear everything that's coming down the pipe. Okay, so first baby in the Mediavine WordPress plugin world is Create. Talk to me about Create. Give me the elevator pitch for Create.
Create is the all-in-one everything plugin. So one of the things we joked about.
Why aren't you on marketing?
They fired me from many marketing jobs in the past.
Okay.
I was too mean. I was too mean to clients, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
So Create. When we built Create, the team and I often would joke about that. What we were building was a content management system inside a content management system. We're building this tool for specifically types of content. For us, it was very much SEO driven from the very beginning. So it was schema driven, right? Along with trying to create a really compelling user experience for publishers and a great card UI for readers, it was also very important from day one that we create a plugin that helped your SEO, helped you drive traffic, helped Google find and discover your content and push it to the top. And that's why we created the schema as deeply as we do. Like my team talks about better ways to do schema pretty frequently. We have a lot of new ideas of how to make schema generation better and more reliable to help, again, our publishers take the content they have and continually make it better. We also, again, worry about performance. And so we also are always looking for ways to speed up our plugin and make sure that we're getting out of the way of users getting the content they're interested in.
Fantastic. So that would be Create. And so right now, tell me the list of features that we already have shipped on Create and tell me what might be upcoming, because I know people are very curious about that.
Listing all of the features in Create could be difficult. I'll do my best. One of the things in our storage for where we store the code that we work on Create, it used to say it was a recipe card plugin, and I at some point updated it. I literally said, this is a lot harder to describe than it used to be. The core features of Create right now are, of course, our recipe and our DIY cards, as well as now our list and roundup UI and cards. Those experiences are critical. We also, one of the runaway, still a show kind of products was the recommended products feature of recipes. I think it was something that we put in there and we had some ideas about what we wanted to do with it, and we have some great plans for it in the future. But I would say of all of the features, that was sort of a runaway hit, and that was the recommended products feature of recipes and DIY. That was a big one. Along with recipes DIY, the products features and lists, we have a lot of features coming up. We have a 1.4 release that went into beta yesterday with a major overhaul of our user experience. Like I mentioned, we've got a designer now, and many people have talked about how great they like how much they like the UI in our current version of Create. We're not satisfied with it. I think what you'll find if you talk to my team is that we're never satisfied with our own work, and we're always looking to make it better. And it's one of the reasons we ship updates as often as we do, is to find new ways to make things better. Upcoming features of Create, we've talked a lot about travel cards. We have some incredible ideas about what to do for travel cards and travel experiences, as well as generally places and other enhancements. I have an entire sheet on the board over here of things that we are planning for Create, and I will reveal a couple of the 1.4 treatments, because those are coming up soon and they're locked.
How soon?
Hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We started our beta rollout. If the beta goes well, it'll roll out faster, but we want to make sure that it's stable and it's a great experience for everyone. So our lists are getting the much requested feature to be able to inject additional content inside lists, so that you can add additional content that's not list content between list items. That was a very frequently asked for feature. Major overhaul of the UI, like a ground up reimagining of the UI. Our designer, did incredible work. Ethan and Hannah did an amazing job implementing her design vision. It vastly enhances and encourages development, of cards and content, and helps users see what they're doing much more effectively than what we did in the past. I think anyone who installs that update is going to be, I hope they're blown away with how much work we put into making that release incredible.
We're excited about it. And I know we've got people that are pretty much chomping at the bit to ask questions. I'm going to just ask a couple of my own questions just to give us some background for people who may not be familiar with everything and who aren't Mediavine heads and know all of our upcoming developments before we do. Talk to me a little bit about Trellis. What is Trellis, and what do we have to look forward to with that?
So in many ways, Trellis is for me a project that I've been dreaming of for 3 or 4 years. And nice. At Mediavine, I got the chance to get it underway, because it was also a vision that Amber and Eric had as well for what we want to give to publishers or make available for publishers to use. Trellis is a WordPress theme framework, not dissimilar from something like Genesis, or I can't name any of the ones off the top of my head right now. They just went blank.
Like Genesis, period.
But Genesis, like, yes. So, however, a lot of times these frameworks have a different goal in mind. And for us, the goal ground up was page speed and SEO. And so we have features that we're planning for Trellis that just take just solve a lot of score problems.
Okay.
I'm not going to unveil a huge number of those features, and there are some that are locked, but we want to make sure that when we're ready to announce it, that people are excited about it. That product is actually starting to enter its first line of beta next week.
Ooh, next week.
Eric and I had a meeting about it. We have plans for how it's a very slow beta rollout at first, and it's going to cycle up in speed as we move forward. But it's going to make pages very fast. It makes them feel like you're using what's called a single page application, where the page doesn't reload. It feels that way, even though it's a traditional WordPress theme. We worked very hard at it, and I worry about it every day. Eric, he thinks even I've gone too far. If I don't get that 98 to 100 on performance, I consider it a bad day. So like that's what we're looking for in our Lighthouse builds. That said, there are some things that we know about WordPress that we have to caveat with Trellis. As much as we're working to make anyone's site as fast as possible, there are plugins that when you use it, you're not going to get the same out-of-the-box scores that you get if you are more cautious about what plugins you're integrating. So we'll probably provide documentation information about how to best leverage Trellis and what plugins pair well with Trellis to maximize your page score.
Excellent. And we're talking about page speed score I knew that was coming. So Kerwin McKenzie wants to know, and we've actually had questions about that. How do you become a beta tester for Trellis, and when can they become a beta tester for Trellis?
Nicole has a list somewhere, and there's a link that I'm sure we can get posted again. I think there's an article. There's a link somewhere to sign up for the beta test. We are rolling that beta test out responsibly. But I would anticipate that we'll be in full swing sometime in June for beta testing. It is probably not going to be everybody who's signed up for the list might not make it on the beta test just because we've had a lot of interest. Please go ahead and sign up because we might do it as a lottery just to try and keep it as fair as possible. But I don't know that we're going to beta test with every single person that signed up because I'm very excited by the amount of interest there has been.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't tell from the live, which you can't because you can't see it, people are freaking out a little bit. Eric just posted a Google Doc. Professor Hochberger, lurking again, has posted the Google Doc to sign up for the beta for Trellis. So please go ahead and follow that link if you want to sign up. Go ahead. Okay, beta testers have not been selected yet. Is that correct, Jordan?
Nobody has been selected yet. We're starting with
don't panic.
Some folks that we know very well, who basically people who worked beta testing Create are also going to be people that we talk to firsthand. Just because, look, they've shown their interest, and if they're interested, we're going to talk to them early. Like the commitment to helping us with those products, because Create, in many ways, was a much more difficult product to beta test and was a much more complicated product to test. And whereas Trellis, it's a very complicated product and I'm very excited about it, but it's in many ways, from a user perspective, it's simpler than Create. And I want to make sure that we reward the people that help us out the most too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to also say that we love all of you. And if you haven't heard yet that you're chosen, that doesn't mean you're not going to be chosen, obviously. And there's a lot of time. So no one panic. This is not like Oscar night. Yep, everyone is very excited. The comments are flooding in. Kerwin McKenzie really wants to be picked because he says he can break it. And Renee Gardner said she's very excited. So there's a lot of things happening now, and there's a lot of excitement. So guys, everyone, just we're going to be rolling this out slowly. So breathe. It will eventually be available. Okay, let's get to some of our viewer questions. because we've been having quite a few. Let's start out with Sarah Jane Parker. She asked some questions in advance. She says, when converting from WPRM to Create, does the roundup feature on WPRM convert to Create? I'm using WPRM right now and would like to switch to Create this fall when my license with WPRM is up, but want to make sure that the roundup feature will convert over to Create's roundup feature.
So I'm not going to lie. I saw this question yesterday.
I would appreciate it if you didn't.
I actually had not thought about that because we rolled out our list feature, and then a month or so later, WPRM rolled out their list feature, and I don't think it occurred to me that we would of course need to add support for that importer. So we will work on an importer for lists because we do want people to have that option. A lot of people have been using Create lists with WPRM recipes. I imagine there's some people who might use, I guess they probably won't because WPRM only does recipes in their lists and not other kinds of content. So we will look at ways to provide that kind of importer because we want people to have an option. I want to mention we want people to use Create. We love you using Create. We're so excited that people are responding well to it, but we also want you to feel successful and happy with the plugin set that you have. I can't guarantee that WPRM though is going to be super compatible with Trellis the way that I can guarantee that Create is going to be super compatible with Trellis. So those are all things to be in mind, but I want you to be happy with the plugin you're using. And so as much as it's easy to get a little competitive, we do want our users to be happy with the content they're producing. So I encourage you to use the recipe plugin that works for you.
Fantastic. Can we go ahead and post that blog post that talks about doing a plugin self-audit from Lauren at Once Couple? That's a great blog post, and I think that might help some people.
Very important thing to do.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and post that. And Jordan, I also want to say that it looks like you are in the scene from Harry Potter where Harry has been zapped by Voldemort in the Deathly Hallows, and he's in the train terminal with Dumbledore, and it's just this bright white light, and all that I can see is the Mediavine medal hanging in your background. Yes. That's what it looks like right now. It's a white room with a Mediavine medal, and it's amazing.
It is right. It's white walls. I open the windows, try to make sure natural light in here. I was worried about lighting. It's a concern.
It's amazing. It's very magical what's happening right now, and I just wanted to share that.
In case you're wondering, this is a Mediavine medal because my team won a Mediavine retreat experience. Just dropping that in there, just in case you're wondering what Mediavine medals from the company look like. This
Mediavine retreats, if you were also wondering, are a lot like Hogwarts. So now all those things go together.
Three-headed dogs everywhere.
He pretty much won the Tri-Wizard tournament. We're just saying. Okay, so let's get a question from Lisa Rollins. Lisa says, I am not able to use lists on my site due to an issue with WP REST API. Have a ticket in with support, but wondering if there's any luck with figuring this out yet. Fingers crossed because she wants to make her list, dang it.
So I've actually been in direct contact with Blogaid and Mayana. We've been working through this issue for a few weeks. And I know that's who it is because I followed up on the ticket and made sure I knew exactly what Lisa was asking. And I think we're close to a resolution and a solution that should work for you, but Mayana is making her own recommendations, and I want to make sure that I respect that. So we think we have a solution. We're getting close to resolution on that issue, and I want to explain a little bit about what that issue is because it's one that pops up every so often. Cloudflare particularly does not properly recognize or acknowledge WordPress REST API calls. And so it throws sort of false positives on an error situation. These are attempts to protect our users and everyone's users, and I understand that Cloudflare has just been a little slow to respond to those issues. The issue, though, is that Gutenberg runs on the REST API. And so we built Create not realizing Gutenberg was going to do it too, but the future of WordPress plugins is going to be in the REST API. And so we're hoping that WordPress and Cloudflare can start to work through the issues of making sure that these endpoints are available. There are ways to whitelist these endpoints, and that's our general recommendation for how to proceed. But we work very hard to keep our plugins future focused, and we believe that API-based user experiences are the future of WordPress, as well as honestly the future of content, and we want to continue to build in that future.
Future building. Yes, love it. Okay. Don Boquist said, when I edit my posts, the block for the create cards looks exactly the same as the block for the videos. It's hard to distinguish which block is the create card without first clicking on one of them. Is there any way to make the create card easier to identify from the edit view?
1.4 is going to start to address this. The new UI for 1.4 definitely starts to differentiate the UI for the create cards from the UI for the video cards, because retrospectively, that's absolutely true. It's feedback we've gotten before. We'll also be looking to make some enhancements to MCP that we can also take steps to make those cards a little easier to identify. So,
time out.
yes.
What's MCP? Tell me what that is, Jordan.
Sorry, MCP is Mediavine Control Panel. Most of you have probably installed that on your site, as it's how we manage both your ads text files as well as your script wrapper. And so it's how most, probably by most, I think 90 plus, 95 plus, like anybody in WordPress for the most part is using Mediavine Control Panel to install their script wrapper and run their ads. And my team also manages that plugin. And we have some plans for that plugin as well coming up. One of the things is we're going to make it a little easier for you to reach out to support from the plugin and a few other minor features. We're very careful with that plugin for very obvious reasons, and so we take our time making sure that those things are done well.
We appreciate that, and we like not to have the things broken that make us the dollars. Okay. New question, Michelle Price. Is there a way to mass update cards? For example, add author to all those that are lacking author / update the category cuisine on a mass scale versus one by one in the recipes?
We do not have, so there's, if you're using the author field to handle copyright, there is and should be a way for you to set a globalized copyright, which is, we have a principle in my team. And it's a software-based principle, but it applies to how we build things. We call it cascading defaults, which means that we set defaults and you can then override those defaults at different stages. And so for that reason, there should be in your settings field an option to set a global attribution, which would sort of give you the ability to set a globalized author. So that wouldn't apply to every card individually, but it would show up on every card. As for updating cuisines and categories in a bulk scale, that is not something that we are doing or have available to users now. If you feel that you need that feature, we always invite people to send emails to create@mediavine.com. I have a huge board of features and requests, and that will definitely go on the board as something that we can consider in the future. But no, it's not something that we have an ability to do right now.
Okay. Good answer. Sherry Smotherman Short says, would love an estimated timeline for things such as being able to change, read more, and being able to make a list of recommended products.
For the create lists, the answer is 1.4. So
okay, within
the next month, probably.
That's exciting.
How well the beta goes. So the beta, that is one of the things it includes is the ability to set the different links. So it should provide you the ability to do affiliate links. We also found out this week, and this is just perfectly transparent, we have a special API that we built that does the fetching and scraping of links to get the images and the sort of data to populate lists. And we found out that with some affiliates, our scraper was basically doing too good a job handling the redirect out to the data that you actually needed. And so it was updating the link, not the way we would prefer. So we're going to be pushing an update into 1.4 to also address those cases as well.
Calm down, scraper.
I do want to clarify, Amazon it will work against us. And so we do our best to continue to support Amazon affiliate links and sort of the auto fetch practices, but we do not have the necessary control over Amazon to make them let us continue to scrape that data. It's one of the reasons we also work hard to make sure that there are ways to manually set up those links yourself, and we'll continue to support that.
Excellent. Angela Nahine says, will there be an option when creating lists to have the link open in the same window?
Yes, we're working on that right now too.
Oh my gosh. It's like you're reading people's minds. Michelle Price says, videos in the card, should we hide them and put them in the main post or in the card? If we don't have a video of that particular recipe, but a related video like how to cut onions or herbs or pop popcorn, should we be putting that video into the card?
Sure. More videos are not going to hurt, but depending on the settings that you have for video insert, it's probably not going to matter too much. So for example, if you opt to stick the video in the card and you embed the video in a post, if you have auto lift, I'm not sure, Eric's going to kill me for not knowing the exact terminology for how you make the video move up and auto position itself into the page. He's going to show up here any second now.
Yeah, we'll just wait for him.
It'll do that for you. So it depends on how your video settings are. It's going to maximize those settings. If you're not sure, if you have a video already in the post, hide the video. The reason for that option is that we know that users like to sometimes position their video very specifically where they want it in the post, but we really want you to be able to attribute that video schema to your card. And so if you don't have a video in the post, you should absolutely display it. If you do have a video in the post, make the call based on what you think is best for your users and your readers, but make sure that you hide it so that you're getting the full schema value of that video object.
Excellent. Okay, Kim Mills would love to know if we'll be able to add subheadings in the list post to separate longer lists into smaller related sections.
So that was one of the, I was probably not clear about it. Yes, that feature is coming as well. There's basically the ability to break up lists with other, both title and description spaces between list items. That's coming in 1.4.
1.4 sounds like a pretty exciting time for us all. Okay.
The lists, based on the feedback that we got from lists, so we released lists and it was well received, but we had no idea how people were going to use it. And so we took back a lot of feedback and we turned that feedback into a better experience for users. And so the whole UI for managing a list has been essentially rewritten from the ground up to meet all of the needs and the feedback that we received. Like I said, I spend at least some time every week. I work directly with support. I spend an hour with support, working support tickets with the support team every week. I spend time in intercom. I receive feedback from Nicole and from Heather and from all of the support team whenever I can, because part of making Create successful is constantly listening to the feedback that our publishers are sending so that that product can be the best that it can be for them. That
is a man of the people, Jordan Cauley. That is amazing. Eric Hochberger just came in with comments saying we're changing the name of it next week. Anyways, thanks, Eric. Spoiler alert for our live. Way to go. We might be having some new terminology coming, but we'll let you know on that, to be determined, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Okay, let's see here. Beck Heflin Donovan says, WPRM allows multiple tags, categories, cuisines, or recipes that are a fusion of cuisines and or can be eaten for more than one meal type. Is there a reason the Create plugin limits the user to just one?
So we built our plugin again in a way, you could call it schema first. And we made the choice because we found in a lot of other plugins that users were getting sometimes incorrect schema, or they were unclear about what field is going to end up in their schema versus what was going to end up in the card. That seemed to be a piece of uncertainty. And so we opted to sort of simplify it and clarify it so that what you're putting into the card in these fields is what's going to be in the schema. I'm not going to say that we're never going to support additional categories and cuisines. The problem becomes, what do we do with those extra categories and cuisines? We can display them in the card, but they're not going to become available to schema, or we'd be in violation of schema practices. So I want to also reiterate, we do follow up on schema on a regular basis. I probably check Google's sort of schema directory and documentation on at least a weekly basis, if not every couple of days, to look for changes and be aware of anything that's coming down the pipe as best we can. And if they open up options for more cuisines and more categories, we'll definitely be ones to adopt that as quickly as possible. Until then, I don't have any plans right now to start supporting additional key schema and categories in the immediate future. We're focused on a lot of other features that we think will bring other value. So yeah, it's based on, primarily the decision was based on the value it provides to schema and for SEO value.
Excellent. Okay, Sylvia Martinez says, will Create be available in Spanish? My blog is bilingual and I use WPML and WPRM for that reason.
So technically, adding language management is very difficult, and that's not something I totally understand, but other people on my team do. If somebody supplies us with the language translations files, we have started to set up making support so that all the titles and things in the card are language support. I think WPML is a different plugin that has to do with having basically multiple sites in English and Spanish, if I'm remembering correctly. It's not something that is, unfortunately, on our immediate roadmap to manage sort of multi-language site experiences. I can't answer that question effectively. What I'm going to do though is because again, one of the things I believe in is researching and following up. I will take that question. I'm going to do a little more research and understand more about that issue, and I'll respond in that Facebook group or wherever we need to.
Fantastic.
So that I can give a more clear answer.
Clarity is always helpful. Okay. Katrina Villegas says, is there a way to change the review prompt on the how-to card from, quote, did you make this, to something custom? I'm doing how-to parenting type posts, so I'd love to add, did you try this instead? Super excited. Oh, she's also super excited to hear about the Trellis timeline and beta testing. She's looking to switch themes, but she wants to wait for Trellis.
Yes, we obviously need to fix that text. Thank you for letting us know.
Fantastic. Publisher engineering, making notes as we're going.
I literally asked my team to make notes while we're doing this. I'm not lying.
I love it. Do they have big Post-its like we had in Tampa?
No, I did not. I couldn't figure out how to get the whole Post-it pad. I have the Post-its that we used in Tampa, but I couldn't figure out how to get the whole Post-it pad into my carry-on.
You should realize that we cannot see anything other than white and the metal. That's all that we see. Nope, that's white.
Can't
that's
hear anything?
I can hear it.
There we go.
There we go. Oh my gosh, it's camo.
Look, it's chat.
This is amazing. We're doing visual illusions. All right. Maria Ushakova says, what is the recommended image size for the recipe card? Is it okay to use a square image? And silence.
Seth, I don't remember what this size is. We generate multiple sizes. So let me clarify. If you, we want you to upload a larger image, because one of the things that we specifically do is we generate all of the necessary sizes for multiple reasons. We generate those sizes so that they look great in your cards, in the different sort of header top levels of the cards, in the print layouts, and we also provide all of the image sizes that Google asks for so that your rich snippets have the best chance of getting picked up. So you want to upload as big an image as you can so that we can safely and effectively generate all of those image sizes. Now, if you want to use like if you have a square image, I would highly recommend using like the circle-based card layout, because that's using a square image to generate that circle, and you're going to get a more effective appearance than you're going to get with some of the other cards if you have smaller image sizes. So if you're using square images, I highly recommend the circle card. But if you have bigger images, you should upload the biggest image that you have so that we can generate all of the necessary smaller sizes to maximize your page speed and the value for your users.
Excellent, and we're paging Seth right now. Okay. Tara Jacobson, I believe we've already answered this for you, Tara, but I'll go ahead and address it anyway. When is the related post plugin coming?
I don't have a date for that.
You don't have a date.
So related posts is not going to be probably part of Create. It'll be part of some other project that will be announced at a later date.
Oh, okay. Is it on one of the Post-its that we cannot see?
It is absolutely on a Post-it right here.
Yep. If you can see it, then you can learn about it, but you can't see it because Harry Potter. All right. Tara Trapazzo Liptak says, is there a way to change the text that says, quote, recommended products in the recipe card to something like tools used in this recipe? We just discussed something kind of like this. Is this similar?
So it is not something that we have support for right now. One of the big changes, so after 1.4, we have another kind of layer. We like to fix things. Like we said, we when we started out, I had some experience dealing with recipe cards from other gigs, but we hadn't, I don't think anyone on my team had built anything that was as well received or as used across many use cases as this. And so we've learned a lot. And so part of our 1.4 release was a major overhaul of our UI based on feedback. We're doing some other overhauls that are going to make it more possible for us to make those kind of tweaks to templates as needed and provide those additional settings. So while that's not coming in 1.4, it is something that I hope to be able to provide to our users sometime this year.
Fantastic. Okay, we heard from Seth. It is 720 by 405. That's the 16.9 or 16 by 9 ratio. For the other sizes, he says 720 by 720 square, 720 by 540, or 4 by 3.
Yes.
He's listening.
So those are Seth. The reason I called for Seth is Seth has been. He and I started the same day. We've been working on Create since its very inception. There are parts of the project that he absolutely knows all of the things about that I know almost nothing about, because I just said, Seth's got this. I'm not going to worry about it. And image manipulation was one of the things that I said, Seth's got this, and I'm not going to worry about it. And so that's why I call for help when I need it.
That's right. Way to go, Seth. Okay, tell us, I'm just going to kind of side note here before we go on to the next question, take a little break from all the tech stuff. Tell me why your team, you have a special nickname for your team. And
the Avengers?
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't actually remember how that started. It was a joke. Someone made a joke and I decided to adopt it. And so if you, in our Slack, you can call our entire team by calling the Avengers. We've all picked our hero avatars. And we even have a tool for my short links, uses avengers.us as my URL. So like, it's just a fun little, I don't know, gag, for lack of a better term, that we have for our team.
And yeah, I love it. Does everybody have their avatar as an emoji in Slack?
Not everybody. I think the original 4 of us do. I think we didn't go back and add more emojis, but and not everybody has agreed to pick their person yet. But everybody is supposed to have picked their person. I don't remember who everybody's people are anymore, but yeah, you're supposed to pick out who your avatar is. So there's certain emojis that if you use them in our Slack group, it will actually send a notification to us to tell us to look at a conversation.
Phenomenal. I love it. All right. Back to the WordPress plugin side of the world. Megan Mackney says, you all have been hinting towards a new feature in Create for the travel bloggers. We talked a little bit about this earlier. The list function is lovely, but any word on more details for the travel function and when it will be debuting? We talked a little bit about all the cool ideas that you have. Is there anything you're willing to tease? Any kind of dates you're willing to give us?
So we're going to talk about, we're going to be top places is sort of the first thing. And in Tampa a couple of weeks ago, we kind of had an entire reimagining of what that's going to look like and what is going to be possible. And so 1.5 is the first, the next release after our UI release is 1.4. The new template release, along with some other enhancements that we're going to make, makes a lot of what we want to do with travel a lot easier and a lot more scalable, which means it'll be easier for us to ramp things through. And so it's something I wouldn't, unfortunately, I don't want to pin down a date, because one of the things we have tried, like, it's a great place to work as a developer. Eric, we try to avoid setting hard deadlines. And the reason that by not having these hard deadlines, it means that we can deliver better products, because when we realize we need to make a change, we make the change. If things take a little longer, you're not feeling like it's the end of the world, and you don't rush things out that aren't ready. My team is working very hard. Like, one of the reasons Trellis is taking a little longer than we'd hoped, but focusing on making sure that we ship products when they're ready versus when it's convenient, I think is a major plus, and it lets us do really incredible and innovative things for our publishers.
And we like that. And we love hearing. So Top Places is going to be one of the first things that comes out for our
Top Places support is going to be one of the first things. And I think the way that we're going to implement that is going to be something that everyone will enjoy.
Fantastic. We love hearing that. Okay, Seth told us that some didn't, quote, pick their Avenger either, may have been assigned. All right.
This was assigned by his wife. We were not even the ones involved.
Oh, we are getting the inside story now. I have to ask, what is it?
Seth was assigned as Loki, which is not truly an Avenger. It's an open interpretation of Avengers as the entire Marvel universe, but
right.
Seth's was Loki, and as I recall, that was his wife's idea, and the rest of us just agreed.
I mean, you can't, if the wife says it, there's not a whole lot of arguing. It's pretty much a done deal.
It's true.
All right. Well, now I have to call him Loki, so that's just the way it is. And so we had Kurt.
He's mad about it every time. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Nice one. I love it. Dad joke. All right. So I'm going to go back up to some of our questions that we came up with. We're going to kind of retrace our steps a little bit, since we don't have any user questions happening right now. We've addressed most of them. So I'm going to go back to talk to me a little bit about Create. I want to get a little bit more into the depth of all the different things it can do. What is the difference between cards and lists? And do you need to use both? And also, lists with the consonant cluster is very hard to say over and over again if you say lists. So yeah, just saying a lot of spit. Go ahead, Jordan.
So what's the difference between cards and lists?
Correct. The difference between cards and lists.
All right. So cards are normally laid out as very printable. I think most people would find that trying to print a list would not have a lot of value. The list schema is based on the idea of a collection of links. And so printing a collection of links is not great. I'm sure we've all seen memes on the internet where someone has found a textbook where it says, they just copy the text from somewhere and it says, click here to go look at this video. And it's, of course, in a textbook. And I've never been able to successfully click a link in a textbook, but it happens. And so lists are not printable. We still typically call them cards because cards ate the internet. We're kind of like deep into the weeds on internet history now. So when we looked at the space, recipe cards are this very concise, obvious thing that like are rooted in a physical object, right? People used to create and collect recipes on like index cards and these recipe card boxes. Everybody has them around their house. Nobody actually ever opens them and uses the recipes because instead they go on their phone and they look at the phone in the kitchen because that's how
I look at them.
Jenny is older than I thought she was. In any event, so that's sort of where the idea of the card is. Much of the internet is this process of taking print experiences and bringing them to a digital space. And now we're in an era where we're starting to think about those things more natively. And so that's why our cards are becoming more interactive and we are adding videos to them and able to do more and more things with them. I have a lot of really cool plans that we have to get through all of the other really cool plans to get to that make those more native experiences. But for us, cards are ideas that you might want to print them because you're going to take those out. You might going to take it in a messy kitchen and maybe you're not comfortable with your iPad being next to your KitchenAid stand mixer. And so you want to be able to print that and put use to that. Same with DIY, right? I don't necessarily want my phone out next to my circular saw. So I'm going to want to print that and have it handy. Plus, when you're taking measurements for chopping, like cutting up planks, and I'm thinking DIY is building with tools because I have to fix my deck. You need to print that and have it handy, but you don't necessarily want that out and exposed to hammers, nails, screwdrivers, etc., or crazy glue if you have children. So I think that's sort of the experience, whereas lists are a much more digital native experience that is based on, you look at the history of the web, it's like linked lists and content related to that. So, but for us, we actually refer to them all as cards because they are typically or historically have been these concise units of content. And that's sort of one of the things that came out of Tampa is we started to think more critically about whether or not lists is a traditional card experience or if that becomes something else and what that means for some of the other content we have planned.
Okay, good. And so yes, the answer in short is yes, they need both because if they're creating both kinds of content, they need to use.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cases where somebody who isn't doing lists are a much more comprehensive thing. Almost everybody who's ever built a website or run a blog has had some point where they felt like creating a list of some kind of links became valuable. And so that's a very universal experience. I can say that if I was running a blog today, it certainly wouldn't be recipe. It only maybe might be DIY, but I could almost certainly use lists.
Excellent. So lists are essentially for anyone.
I feel like lists can be used by anybody running a website, yes.
Fabulous. Love that. Okay. Kim Mills came in with a question. She said, will we be able to hide the read more button on the lists posts? I would love to be able to use create for list posts that aren't roundups too. An example would be tip posts like 10 ways to do whatever, where you don't have a full post for each tip.
So again, this is another experience that would have been unanticipated. So when we released lists, we focused very heavily on the schema. And so a post like that couldn't use schema at all because the schema, like part of the schema requirement is that there be a link. And so without a link, that post it's just content. What I'm hearing is that you really like the layout of our lists, which you can thank our great design team for. And you would like to be able to use those layouts outside of the context of a list. That is something that I would assume that my team is writing down for us to discuss and consider in the future. Because again, while schema is important, we understand that some of our users are looking also for the incredible layout experiences that we're trying to provide. So I'm not going to promise, I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no.
It depends, the lawyer answer.
Maybe.
Fantastic. Tara Jacobson has asked a question that I feel might lead us off into the weeds and potentially get Jordan on his soapbox. But this live has been fairly tame so far, with the exception of the Dumbledorian light that's happening behind Jordan. So I'm going to allow it. So Tara Jacobson, what is up with all the plugins, not Create, that are breaking and allowing spammers to take over?
Based on the amount of traffic that's happening, I'm going to speculate wildly that this is a concerted effort by probably one particularly ill-meaning group. Just because of the number that are happening in tandem, they're looking for these opportunities. For us, I literally wake up in cold sweats worrying about the security of Create, because it's y'all's livelihoods. It's very important. And we opted, in many ways, one of the reasons we opted for the API was so that we would have more control to set those parameters and guarantee that they're using current best practices and using the best capabilities of handling permissions that we possibly can. Create, by default, doesn't let users less than an editor even ever have a chance of editing content. We block that ability immediately. And you have to enable editors to have that access. By default, only admins can create content, and we're going to keep it that way. I think, honestly, very much, I think it's a concerted effort by ill-meaning groups at one time to go after WordPress, because the big reason for that is that WordPress is a massive portion of the internet, and it's got a lot of what we call abandonware. There's tons of plugins on the repo that they're still on the repo, but they haven't been updated in 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years. And many of our publishers have some of those plugins on their sites. And it's one of the reasons why we recommend doing a plugin audit and really evaluating if that's a plugin that you trust and if it's one that you need. When we look at open source libraries that we might leverage for other projects, or if we're looking at plugins that we're going to install, it's very important to me that it's been updated inside of the last month. I'm not so wild and crazy to think that it should be updated every day or every week or every 2 weeks. But if it's not been updated in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, you're going to start seeing that they might not be coming back to that project. And when things update, they're going to break and they're going to stay broken. And as WordPress sort of is rapidly evolving, it's important to make sure that you're paying attention to those pieces of software.
Excellent. So the magic number for you is a month in terms of plugin updates. You need to see that it's been touched by a developer in the last 30 days.
I want to know that it's been touched by a developer in about the last 30 days. If it's occasionally every 2 months, that's fine. If a plugin on your site hasn't had an update on the repo in 6 months, it's time to start shopping for alternatives.
Excellent. Guys, you heard that. And I think it's a pretty solid piece of advice. Make sure your plugins are updated. Okay, we've got a question from Jennifer Zifchek Costello. I'm going to be doing dog grooming tutorials, and I would like to use Create to list the steps and share what grooming tools to use. Is this possible to do with what Create offers now?
Yes, absolutely. That is 100% a DIY or how-to card. We provide in the DIY and the how-to, we have both places for materials as well as tools as separate links or separate list items. There's plenty of place for instructions. And 1.4 is going to make that experience even better.
Excellent. All right. Tell us, why is Create so great for schema and SEO? Tell us what I know you guys built it with that in mind, but give me a little bit more.
One of the reasons it's a little pressure with the word great. It is great for SEO because it's focused on that schema generation, and we provide, one of the things we wanted with our plugin is to make sure that we're staying accountable to our publishers. It's why we built in a way to check your schema and check your rich snippet results with one click inside your Create editor. You can go see if we're practicing what we preach and delivering what we promise. And we provided those tools to the best of our ability right there in the card editor. The reason it's great is that we're able to not only generate that schema in a way that it's available, but we have tools built into the plugin so that if there's a schema update, we can rebuild the schema to update against that new change. Like I said, I check the sort of schema changes on a regular basis. We look at new opportunities to create new cards that'll have that schema capability. And we're looking at new ways to take the cards you already have and make that schema even better or more effective for driving content. Because for us, schema is important, right? And SEO is important, but the reason those are important is to help you drive organic traffic. And so if there are ways that we can update, create to help you drive additional organic traffic without you doing anything else because of new standard or new opportunities in schema or rich snippet capabilities, we're going to ship that and you're going to get that feature without having to worry about it. The other thing is Create comes with a team of developers, right? It's not a one-man shop. It's not even a two-man shop. My team right now is made up of 9 people. I have a designer and 7 other developers, as well as myself, who have all contributed to Create at some point in its life cycle. It's a very important piece of software that gets a lot of attention and a lot of forward thinking. So it's great for SEO, not only because of what it is today, but what it's going to be tomorrow.
And in reality, it's not, I mean, I know you said a team of 9 developers, but it's really a team of Avengers, like superheroes. So...
Yes, that doesn't make pretty super.
If that doesn't make your schema better and your site speed and all those things, obviously, I don't know what would. All right, Jordan, I've had a great time talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I've had a blast. Okay, guys, just to let you know, Teal Talk is going to be back in a couple of weeks. I have a very special guest that is potentially on the horizon, but I don't want to announce it until we get that confirmed. Once we have it confirmed, I'll let you know. You're not going to want to miss it. And then we've got the summer.
It's me, by the way. She's just having me back in a couple of weeks.
Really, what's happened to Teal Talk is it's just only going to be Jordan for the rest of time. So that's what's going to, and we're going to have him in a different mythical location each time he is a guest.
I'll be wearing a teal polo that time too, just to really shake it up.
Well, it better be color matched and it better be the right teal. Otherwise, it's not right. Tara Jacobson said, thank you, Jordan. And she said, oh, and Jenny, thanks, Tara. Thank you, Tara, for watching. All right. And then the Summer of Live is coming up. So if you have ideas for guests of people that you would like to see on the Summer of Live, that's where we do a live every single week for 3 solid months. Holy cannoli. That's the truth. Email into sponsored@mediavine.com. Tell us about it. If you think you'd be a great guest for the Summer of Live, we would love to hear from you. So go ahead and email in. Again, thank you to Jordan. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more question, Jordan. What Avenger are you?
I was hoping to escape this.
No.
I've been labeled Captain America. It's because of the beard, I think. It's also so that I can shout Avengers Assemble during our stand-up meetings.
I love that. I love that. The cap. Perfect. All right. Do you have a shield? We can leave that.
I have a circular, like one of those disc sleds in my garage. We can use that.
Perfect. Fantastic. Again, Jordan, Cap, thank you. Avengers, thank you for all the great stuff you're creating. Guys, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.